Right, good evening, everyone, and welcome. We called our meeting to order in our closed executive session so we can begin our meeting. So we will, no board president comments tonight, and our superintendent will be making his comments during the presentation. So we have student representative comments. We'll begin with that. We can start with High School North.
Hello?
Oh, there you go.
Okay, better.
Thank you.
Okay. High School North's production of The Little Mermaid took place this March 2nd to March 5th, with not only evening performances, but also matinee performances for younger children who turned out in full force that weekend. Cast members also stayed in character and signed autographs for younger children who attended. Last month, the United Cheer team competed in the High School National Championship at Disney in Florida. National Honor Society invitations were recently sent out to over 200 High School North students with a 3.5 GPA and above. The HSN Avid team held an interest meeting for all CMS 8th graders interested. Last weekend, for the first time since 2019, High School North juniors went to Washington Seminar. They had a chance to meet DEA agents and Representative Bonnie Watson Coleman. NJ GPA testing for 8th graders is taking place this week. Our first day with testing was today, and everything went very smoothly. The High School North administration were also able to coordinate with construction officials and recently opened the traditional student drop-off loop to help alleviate the traffic in the morning. It is working, and coming to campus around 7:30 has been much smoother. With regard to Black History Month at High School North, grade levels assemblies were held each week to celebrate and share knowledge and develop awareness around Black history during the month of February. The Tonight Show. This Saturday, our student council is hosting their second in-person Tonight Show. The Tonight Show is a talent show of all senior contestants. The show showcases seniors with various talents ranging from musical performances to dance battles. The Tonight Show is open to all members, so consider attending if you can. Last weekend, the WWP robotics team traveled to Mount Olive for the first competition this season. The robotics team won First Alliance and took home the victory. Junior prom is coming up on March 31st at Forest Gate Country Club. Juniors are very excited to attend their first prom of high school. And finally, Disney. Disney's senior trip is taking place next week from Thursday to Friday. All the seniors are very excited to leave school for that week. Thank you guys, and have a great day.
Thank you. Can we have the student representative from High School South?
Good evening, everyone. Just a really quick introduction in replacement of Bella and Quinn. I'm Maya, and I'm a junior at South.
Great. And I'm Eliana. I'm also a junior at South. So we've had a few events this month, and we definitely have a lot planned for the coming weeks.
So on February 24th, we had a movie night where we filmed where we screened the film Interstellar, and we sold concessions to raise money for student council as a whole. And on March 24th, we also plan to hold another movie night.
The dodgeball tournament, which we'd planned around the same time, has been rescheduled, and we currently have NHS, our National Honor Society, doing their walk the plank event, and we're also planning a student unconference in which students are going to talk to teachers about their clubs. So yeah.
We're also in the process of creating banners for different sports teams for our spring pep rally, as well as coming up with new and unique Spirit Day themes for the warmer weather. We did a poll, and the majority of students agreed that they wanted the next Spirit Week to be when the weather got warmer, so we're hoping to have it in April or May.
South also had our very own musical recently, and our musical was called Something Rotten, so that was a great experience as well. And we also recently had our, I think think, first ever talent show in 3 years, I believe, which we had like a couple of different events. We even had one ventriloquist, so that was pretty cool.
So today was the first testing day of NJGPA, and it went extremely smoothly, and that's all we have for you today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, Eliana and Maya. Welcome. And we're looking forward to seeing you next time. Thank you. All right, so we're now going to move to the 2023-2024 tentative budget presentation. So I'll turn it over to Dr. Adderhold.
Thank you, Ms. Juliana. Good evening, everyone, and thanks for coming out for the budget presentation this evening. Largest crowd I've had in a couple of years. Every year, the Board of Education is required to submit a tentative budget at the first meeting in March. That's part of the budget process. The tentative budget gets approved, reviewed and approved by the Board of Education. It's then sent to the county superintendent and the county BA to review, and then we receive that back, sometimes with feedback, sometimes accepted as is, as presented, and then based on that, it then goes forward to the public vote and the public presentation of the budget in April that's presented to the board at the April meeting. And then based on this budget, brings forward the spending limits that the board holds to and is constrained by for the subsequent school year. So this is our tentative budget presentation for the 23-24 school year. We always start grounding with the mission statement of the district and building upon our tradition of excellence, the mission of WWP Regional School Districts to empower all learners to thoughtfully contribute to diverse changing world with confidence, strength of character, and love of learning. And of course, behind our mission statement, we have 4 strategic goals. And we talk about our budget as a reflection of our values. Now, as we look at the budget process and we talk about what is a school budget, we talk about it as a planning tool, the consideration of contingencies, management of risk, the importance of being fiscally responsible to the taxpayers, a reflection of our values, and that we have to consider safeguards and buffers. Unlike residents, school districts do not have credit cards. We have to build everything into the budget. Whatever we don't have in, if it doesn't fit, we have to find through cuts and by not offering programs, or we have to look at class limitations or class sizes and whatnot. So we really work hard to make sure in the planning process. So the budget process is a good 9 to 10 month process the board and the administration goes through. So some of the drivers for this year's budget: we have increased district costs for the New Jersey Educator Healthcare Plan and the Garden State Healthcare Plan. The district is seeing an increase of 9.9% on our healthcare. That is below the county and state average of over 15%. We are a self-funded district, so we do have some savings by that. We have our salary increases, and that's all our different negotiated contracts and negotiated agreements with our different education partnership groups, as well as with our non-affiliate groups. Salary increases also talk about our ABM, so our building and grounds contracts, our food services contracts, our bus contracts, and whatnot. This year, we are negotiating with our education association, so as we're in active negotiations with our educators, we do have to plan for potential impacts regarding salary there as well with an unknown salary contract. With transportation route renewals, bus routes have been extraordinarily high the last several years. Now, bus contractors are allowed to reapprove contracts on something called the Consumer Price Index. That's a regional index rate between Philly and New York, and that gets set by the state. This year, it's set at over almost 6%. So the cost of route renewals, the transportation providers can choose to readopt and accept the rate of CPI, or they can bid the routes. Last year, CPI was under 2%. As a result of that, with the high inflation and the higher price for diesel in particular, many of the bus contractors did not accept CPI and put us back out to bid. As such, we saw over a 20% increase in our transportation budget. And when your transportation budget is over $12 million, that's a sizable increase. And then when you factor in driver shortages and fuel increases, and many of our outside contractors like First Student and whatnot. While they're great partners, they have been paying their drivers higher salary and wages as a result of the shortages in the field. Some of those shortages come because of changes within certification rules that the federal government has put forward for transportation and bus drivers. There's some moments of pause at this time regarding some of those rules, but the bottom line is there's less drivers than there have been in years gone by as a result of some rules in New Jersey, and at the federal level, some of the fleets have moved out to PA. So because of that, we've had extraordinarily high transportation costs the last 2 years. There is no mechanism for the district to collect additional funds when we have transportation renewals at 20%, but our renewal rate, or what we're allowed to raise, is 2% in allowances. So when you have a 2% budget to budget on the local tax levy, but you're seeing transportation costs over 20%, it causes programs to be constrained, and some programs that you might want to offer have to be held back. Building and grounds, we're going into custodial contract renewal. We're going into year 5 next year, so something we need to be mindful as we build the 24-25 budget is that 5th year in the renewal for building and grounds. And that's an open process. Currently, our provider's APM. ABM before that, we had other contractors, and before that we were in-house. Technology, we have the district refresh and devices refresh. So device refresh is 3 grade levels of Chromebooks plus teacher devices. A grade level of Chromebooks is well over $250,000, $250,000. We annually have increase in our special services, out-of-district tuition increases. Out-of-district companies or schools for out-of-district placements are not held at the same 2% in allowances as district, so that they can provide and request fees. We'll see tuition increases in contracts well over 10%. And again, when we're sitting at a 2%, but they can apply a 10 or 15% increase, it just constrains the rest of the budget. And then capital projects. And for that, the district has several capital projects. This comes out of 2 funds, either our capital outlay or our capital reserve. So with that, I also want to just talk about some of the dollars we're talking about here. Healthcare increases over $2.8 million. Our 2%, remember, is about $3.6 million on the local tax levy is what we're allowed to raise. Salary increases of 2.1, transportation 2.1, CPI at 5.86, the Consumer Price Index, and most of our companies have accepted that this year. Building and grounds contract increases of 675. That's based on 2 things. One is the number of routes, but square footage increases. We do have some insurance increases as cyber insurance and other fees within the insurance pool that we're in have increased. ABM is our custodial contract. Technology, $450,000 increase over what was budgeted last year. Special education, $300,000, and cap reserve or capital projects is $4.3 million. Of that, $2.6 million of those projects are ROD eligible. What ROD eligible means is it's regular operating district grants that was just released by the Department of Education. We've currently applied for five projects, and based on that, we will find out the deadlines in May. We probably will not find out to the fall whether or not those projects are awarded as ROD eligible. If they are ROD eligible, up to 40% of district costs could be reimbursable by state grant. So with that capital reserve, some of the projects that you see there is the sensory playground over at Town Center. This is a playground specifically for some of our students with autism, and this would be behind the school where there's currently a blacktop playground, so we'll be replacing the blacktop, bringing in sensory equipment, as well as rubberizing the surface for safety. A roof replacement over at Town Center is another necessary change. We have submitted that also for a ROD. The CMS emergency radio tower, this was something that was not built into the referendum. It was not required as a component on the review by the township, but now in order to get the certificate of occupancy, we're being told that we have to upgrade the radio tower for emergency responders. at CMS. And while we hope the number does not exceed 300, we are being told based on the size of the radio tower potentially necessary could be that high. When working on the dance studio over at High School North, there was an investigation done to tie in some of the dance studio pipes into the sanitary main. Upon investigation, they found a crack in the main going to High School North. While there's no immediate concern of collapse, it's inevitable that that pipe is going to need to be replaced, as the crack could cause problems for sanitation at North. We want to get ahead of that and take that on this summer. And then at Wyckoff, we've had some moisture-related concerns to the exterior walls in the gym at Wyckoff. As a result, it goes underneath the slab in the gym floor, causing the gym floor to buckle and having moisture in the back right corner of the gym if you're walking into that gym. There's been multiple attempts at remediation, and at this point, we have a Van Cleef Engineering and another firm doing additional moisture checks to give a full recommendation. Part of the challenge there is if you're inside the gym, what you realize is the exterior walls are below the soil line, right? So you do have some moisture remediation that really needs to be done and was not done when the building was built 100 years ago. So capital reserve total is the 4.262,400, and then we have our annual building and ground projects of $1,087,000. That's everything from sidewalk repairs to blacktop replacements to stairwell work to carpet replacements to tile being put down, just the annual maintenance of having $1 billion worth of facilities. So the total is 5.349,900 for capital projects. That's both two funds of money, what's in the general fund and what's coming out of reserve accounts. So the big announcement is that we are recommending in this year's budget the move to full-day kindergarten. We have built in the necessary staff to offer full-day kindergarten for all of our kindergartners starting next year. So we're pleased to recommend full-day K. We have a letter that will be going out to the public tomorrow to all pre-K 12 families, because it's a large enough announcement. We want everyone to be aware of it. We've had a half-day program. We're one of only 3% of the state that has a half-day program. There's lots of reasons why we feel that additional instructional time, supervised play, center time, additional specials, lunch, recess, opportunities. Our staff is dynamic, and they've done a phenomenal job with the time that we've given them. Some of the challenges of the pandemic have been socialization and students with lost opportunities for pre-K and early programs, and we really believe our students will benefit from moving to a full-day K model. Over the next few weeks, I'll be working with building administrators, elementary. I've met with the kindergarten teachers today, representatives from the association, this education association. We've been working with transportation and food services. We've been talking with our EDP program. There's impacts to our extended day care program. We will not need a kindergarten extension program in district, and this could have a residual impact to some of our providers in the area, as our kindergartners will not be bused midday as they are currently. We believe this has a benefit to working families as well. And we will be working with our curriculum instruction department, with our kindergarten teachers, to talk about sequence and pacing, not additional curriculum and more curriculum, pacing and depth of our curriculum. So we're very excited that this is built in. It's a net 12 sections add across the 4 elementary pre-K2, K3 schools. And again, it's a relatively big sequential change in district, but we believe it's the right change, and it's reflected in the budget that's presented to you this evening. The staffing, I should say, is not a 12+ growth. Some of those is because of attrition and some sections collapsing at other grade bands, because we have seen the last 3 years lower enrollment in kindergarten. So K1-2 has lower numbers than years gone by. There's enough bathrooms in all the schools, especially with the additions that have been put on through the referendum at both Wyckoff pre-referendum at Town Center and pre-referendum at Hawk. And then we have We'll be investigating special areas. We believe we're going to replicate what we do in first grade right now with respect to the specials. There's things that we have to think through regarding the DLIK program. It's currently a 90-10 model. We anticipate it being a 50-50 model. For families that may be listening or hearing, if they've already registered, they do not need to re-register. Everyone will automatically be moved into the full-day model in their sending path. So no additional steps for families that have already registered. With respect to revenues and how the budget's built, there's a 2% general fund on the local tax. That's the allowance for the state for districts. In that, there's also a couple areas where you can have what's called a spending growth limitation adjustment, or an SGLA. There's two in particular that you can generate an SGLA on. One is on healthcare, and there's a formula regarding it, but when I talked about that 9.9% renewal this year, that allows us to generate $2.2 million of additional dollars. And that money can be spent for next year and then 2 subsequent years. When you don't spend the totality of it, it's called generating bank cap. So what we're recommending to the board is we spend 1/3 of the generated allowance under the healthcare SGLA, and then we bank the 1.487 remaining to be used in subsequent years before that money expires. We talk about multi-year budgeting. If you were to use all 2.2 at one time, you would create a bubble, and then you'd have a tail off, fall off into next year. While it's possible we could generate further SGLA in healthcare with subsequent renewals, that's a guess at this point. What we know is what we have today, and we recommend thinking it over a 3-year window. There is no enrollment adjustment. For any district to generate an enrollment adjustment, you have to have a 10% or higher increase in any 1 year. That's incredibly difficult to do with districts of size. We would need over 900 students to join us. And again, there is no bank cap for monies that were previously generated in prior years. That money has all been utilized as the district has either utilized bank cap in prior budgets or has gone to the taxing authority. With respect to the cap reserve, I talked about the $4.262 million, and we did see a state aid increase of $1.5 million. So that was an appreciated increase. We were anticipating about $800,000. We received the 1.5. All Mercer County districts, with the exception of Robbinsville, saw an increase above what they were expecting. Robbinsville, our neighbors next door, received a $0 budget increase. And that's all by formula. All right, so we look at the way we built the budget with 2 options, either a 2%, and that's the 2% on the general fund, or option 2, which is the 2% plus the allowance of the SGLA, and in this recommendation, using 1/3 of the SGLA that's being generated from healthcare. The unknowns for next year are the negotiations, again, with our Education Association partners, and that's not a knock, that's a process that the board and the Education Association goes into, and at this point, we have to make some educated guesses about where we think negotiations will go as we budget. We do have some mid-year renewals next year with both healthcare and prescription. We are a January to December renewal for healthcare, so it's something we have to be mindful of there. When you look at the total expenditures that have been talked about, we're over $9 million in expenditure, and when you talk about what we can bring in with revenues, we're at 5.8. So clearly there's a gap. So the gap is made up in 2 places. One, we are going to be budgeting some additional surplus that's generated from the prior year, about 2.4 additional million. And then we did see a reduction of $800,000 in a general fund line that was specific to the ESIP, which was the Energy Savings Improvement Program. As a requirement of that program, we had to budget $800,000 the last 2 years per year towards the ESIP. That money fell off this year, so we did not have to budget that in the general fund. So between those $2 amounts, we closed the gap. The budget recommendation that's in front of you tonight for the tentative budget is the 2.42. Again, the 2.42 includes kindergarten full day, and it includes no additional staff outside of kindergarten at this time. because of the cost increases that we're expecting in both healthcare and transportation. So because of some of those challenges that we have in those two areas in particular, we are not recommending additional staff outside of the move to full-day K. And any questions for the board?
Thank you, Dr. Adderhold. Any questions from the board or comments? Yes, Lloyd?
I was just going to say, I think there are a lot of excited families about full-day kindergarten, so that's great news to hear. I did have a question on the transportation increase, was this 2.1, assuming a 5.86 CPI. If it goes out to bid, is there a number or an estimate what it would be if it wasn't assuming CPI?
Yeah, so we've already been working with the transportation contractors for our renewals, and the vast majority of our contractors have accepted the CPI. So we believe we're going to be okay with the 2.1 at 5.86. A year ago, CPI is a look back by formula, which is from December to July, you look back 6 months, and then from that window, you go back 12 months from there. And you factor in the regional transportation consumer price index rate, and the only folks that have the formula or show it to us is the Department of Ed and the Transportation Department. That gets released in January of the following year. So when we renewed a year ago, CPI was 1.91. But that is not what everyone was feeling with interest rates and with diesel fuel. So when those bus contractors were faced with accepting renewal, they said there's no way we could accept the renewal at 1.91%. And then they pushed all these districts out to bid for, it was around 60% of our runs had to go out to bid. Because of that, they came in over 20% with the route renewal. There's no limit. Some districts saw 50% renewal. So we were fortunate to get to 20, honestly.
This is without any route changes or anything? This number?
Yeah, that number, there's always a little bit of an ebb and flow with routes. Sometimes you have to add additional depending on if developments, but those are taking our projected routes based on this year's student pathways, rolling students forward. We use a different software for transportation called VersaTrans, so we can generate projected routes based on the current stops, but that will need some manipulation. That always needs some massaging as you have to look at your developments, you have to look at the number of kids at the routes, what schools they're going to, whatnot. But usually, it's how you guesstimate, it's how you estimate.
Thank you.
Appreciate the question.
Thank you. Lloyd. Any other questions or comments? Great. Thank you, Dr. Adderhold. And I do want to just echo what Lloyd said about full-day kindergarten. I know that a lot in our community have been wanting to see that for many, many years. I know for some of us who our kids are long past kindergarten, we've wanted to see that. So hopefully the community sees that this is a great thing, and we're very excited. Thank you so much for all the work that the administration did to look into that. So appreciate that. Okay, so we're now moving to the first opportunity for public comments. The board invites thoughts and reactions on agenda items and items of concern from members of our community who are present. Each participant is asked to give his or her name and address prior to making a statement, which will be limited to 3 minutes in accordance with Board Policy 0167. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. This public comment period shall be limited to 60 minutes. Are there any public comments? And if there are, please come up to the podium.
Good evening. I'm Pratik Mehta, resident of 14 Normandy Drive, West Windsor. Before I begin, I just want to say that's really good to hear the new kindergarten full day. Even though both of my daughters are not in kindergarten anymore, I really believe that our school district is moving towards a better education goal. So really happy to hear that. So today I want to just follow up based on where I left off last week about the late start. And before I do that, I want to begin with the personal statement. I have 2 daughters, right? So my older daughter will start in 9th grade in this September. She's an early riser. She wakes up every day at 5:50 a.m. every morning, weekend or weekdays. She is that. My younger daughter is actually another story, to put it mildly. She seems to have a hard time waking up in the morning. She sort of activates in the night, more energetic, want to play, talk to me constantly. It's not for the lack of trying. She is generally, she's not like staying up late night watching TVs or using screens, but she generally is more active doing homework or playing or whatever else a child does. And it's hard for her to go to bed until like 10, 11. She's in her twin. She is going to enter in the sixth grade, so community middle school next year. So I'm even more worried because community middle school, as you can imagine, it's a early start, a way early start. So with that said, you might want to say that that's not really my problem, it's yours, and it's you need to parent up and teach your kid to how to wake up early. And it might be right, I need to work towards that as well. But I might also say that I'm thinking, and that's the, I have a skin in the game, so I'm coming here mainly because of that reason only, that maybe it's the reason here the body functions are playing a part. Maybe a reason is that body, some students are affected more by the biological rhythm and teen and twin issues, so that's the reason this is happening to her. So with that said, I'm here because of the personal reason. I have a stake in the game. Uh, Last time I said that what we can do about the formal next step to evaluate this complicated problem. I completely agree that transportation is a huge cost, and we don't want to impact other elementary and primary kids getting affected. So I really don't want to focus just on middle and high school and not focus on primary and elementary just because my kids are no longer there. So I just want to find a creative way to solve this complex problem. And like I said last time, we will not be able to solve this problem by looking at the problem as a whole. Just like it's a tangled web of strings, we need to pull one string at a time and solve this complex problem. Agreed, the transportation is one of the biggest. But yeah, so we are willing to help. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
My name is Naresh Nagella. I am at 77 Grayland Drive in West Windsor. I'll try to stick to 3 minutes, and I apologize for not understanding the intricacies of last week's debate and the tensions. I did not listen to the live stream or go back and see it. But just as my background, I'm a pulmonary critical care and sleep physician. I tell my patients all the time to concentrate on your sleep. It's 1/3 of your life. You got to do it well. I think a lot of things in our country would be better if we listened to the pediatricians. The American Association of Pediatrics has said high schools need to start after 8:30. You guys know the host of healthcare association correlations, all the negative outcomes. I won't get into that right now. If we listen to the pediatricians on guns, I think our country would be better off too. But we don't listen to our pediatricians. I just want to say, if it's a logistical thing, I think we already do a lot of logistical things for a healthcare reason, like we did with COVID, right? We literally rearranged how school worked in the name of our health of our children. And we adapted, you adapted, and the board really did an excellent job of getting us through the pandemic. That's one thing. Second thing is, if it's a logistical thing, I mean, my daughters are both going to pass one high school to go to another high school. It's about another 15 minutes extra of a commute. In order for whatever geographic diversity, economic diversity, that's your expertise that I wouldn't get into. But we do it for a reason, right? It's inefficient, and we do it for a reason. There's middle schoolers in Plainsboro who spend an extra half an hour on the bus route to get to Grover. And so we do this. We do inefficient things for a greater good. And I think it's a unqualified greater good to protect our children, to preserve their sleep architecture, and to give them the best chance they can in life. And I know that when I was in college, I loved being able to finally choose classes after 8:30, right? I didn't have to get up at 7 o'clock for high school. Be at high school at 7 o'clock. And there was a reason, right? And there was a lot of great classes I would have loved to have taken, but I just physiologically couldn't do it. And I think we have to understand that. And I would love a forward-thinking district like us to understand the undeniable healthcare aspect of it and to try to make it happen. That's it.
Thank you. Any other comments?
name is Smita. I hope. Yeah, hello. My name is Smita, and I live in Westminster Township. And I'm here to support the late start. But before that, I would really, thank everyone here for the full day kindergarten program. I wish my kids could, attend that now that, they have already graduated. So, but still I do have one who would be, a rising high schooler. Coming to the point, I would like to point to one reference that was made in the last meeting stating that there is science from CDC and other scientific sources backing longer sleep time for students, but this necessarily does not mean late start. However, I have a few references from various research studies that indicate and recommend late school start. The American Academy of Pediatrics and the National Sleep Foundation have recommended that middle school and high schools start at 8:30 a.m. or later to give students the opportunity to get the amount of sleep they need. Anne Wheaton, PhD, a lead author and epidemiologist in CDC's Division of Population Health, said, early school times, however, are preventing many adolescents from getting the sleep they need. The American Academy of Pediatrics also mentions that during puberty, adolescents become sleepy later at night and need sleep later in the morning as a result of shift in the biological rhythms. Not to mention with the new technology and the incorporation of the Chromebooks and electronic study materials that students are up completing their homework on, a study completed by the Harvard Health concluded that exposure to blue light before bed suppresses the secretion of melatonin, the hormone that influences sleep. Although beneficial during the day, the students are completing their homework until later night hours due to their busy and sleepless day schedules. A substantial body of research has demonstrated that delaying school start time is an effective intervention to prevent chronic sleep loss in adolescents and has a wide range of benefits to students with regard to physical and mental health. I think I have enough references stated that suffice enough to support the latest school start, which does help kids with a well-rested mind and body for the rest of their day. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? No.
I'm Chandra Teesfeld. I live in Plainsboro at 4 Parker Road. And thank you all for all the work you do and the stretching and growing that you've allowed our district to achieve through COVID and kindergarten and approaching this late start issue. So I want to start with a personal story, then say how our niche is not actually probably such a niche story, but more a general case, and then ask you to address this problem head on and creatively involving all stakeholders. So the first thing is that I have perfect kids. They are disciplined. Their dad is a US Navy captain. He's gotten up at 5 a.m. for 30 years. They were born with it. I didn't teach them anything. So they are up. They have their breakfast made, their lunches made. They bring snacks for before school activities, for after school activities, for the bus ride home or the car drive home. They manage to get their homework done and get 8 hours of sleep a night, at least, if not more, depending. Junior year, a little less most often. But at any rate, the reason why the late start would be a boon is this early start physiologically affects them because A, yes, their chronobiology is not tuned to early, but more to the point, our niche story is that they have a rare thing that doesn't allow them to eat most of the food on the planet. So if you go to a grocery store, 85% of it they won't be able to eat. We have to provide food. And it's nothing in the district, it's nothing on the district, right? This is a weird case. So they have to be fed at home. And they really do not want to eat, but I am stuffing stuff in their face as they get out the door. So in this case, it's a medical situation where they're not going to be able to just get school breakfast, or maybe the teachers aren't going to let them eat. So their chronobiology is they need to eat later, but they can only eat the food that comes out of our house. So my point is this seems rare and weird, but as a biologist who studies health and disease in humans at genomics and population levels, I know that rare diseases in humans make up the majority of disease in humans. So we have lots of weird cases, but if you put all those together, depending on demographics, can equal the amount of common disease that's experienced in a population. So my guess is, as a parent in this niche, is that we're exhausted by our everyday trying to make sure our kids are healthy and grow. And to come here and advocate for something that would help them is just like an extra amount of effort that I would bet most people with more severe things in their family just don't have the time or energy to do. So that is part of my argument that this niche case is probably more the usual. And that goes along with the idea that when you sample any population, subsampling, you're going to find what's usual. It would be odd to find the rare cases, like all of us with exceptions in our family. We're the only ones who showed up. No, you had 700 signatures, almost 10% of the parents signed. That says something. So thank you, and I hope we can include everyone in our search for solutions, including our students.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Good evening, all. My name is Milind Manurkar. I live at 15 Slayback Drive, West Windsor. I have a few questions here. Starting with the kindergarten, I think that's a fantastic move. And I saw that there's a capital increase of, $4.2 million, or roughly 2.42% increase. How much of that contributed towards the kindergarten school change process? Like what percentage of $4.2 million is going towards the kindergarten going to the full day school? So that's first question. Second one is, basically I know last time when we met, Dr. Adderhold made a reference that though he does not know the Ridgewood interim superintendent directly, but he did say that he's gonna make a call and discuss with him what was the process that was involved when they implemented a late start in their school district. So I'm just curious to know, like, did he get a chance to talk to the interim superintendent there, and what was the outcome, and what were the pros and cons? And the final question is about the school credits for the high schoolers. I remember last time we discussed this, like, reducing the school time, especially for the high schoolers, is going to impact their credits. So in that aspect, basically, I know we went over all the logistical issues last time, but what I'm not sure is that what is the benefit that they are seeing today? I don't think that we discussed or focused on the positive side of that change, whether it's Ridgewood or whether it's the state of California. The entire state has implemented late start. Similarly, Chatham School District and few others who have implemented, including the Princeton, right? So I just wanted to hear out your version in terms of the positive effects of that change. What did those school districts present it to you? Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sudha Narayan Swami, and I'm a parent residing in 41 Krebs Road, Plainsboro, New Jersey. I have a high schooler and a rising middle schooler, and very much invested in this late start, or at least exploration of it from our district. Before I get started, I wanted to thank Dr. Adderhold and the Board of Ed for the opportunity to address the meeting and the people this evening, and also wanted to extend my gratitude for all of the navigation that has been done in the last couple of years, namely the pandemic. I don't think we would have gotten through, our children, their education needs without the Board of Ed and Dr. Adderhold, so I wanted to recognize that. And multiple items that you had really championed, the school resource officers, the school construction, and so many more challenges that were successfully navigated by this board, which is why I feel like when we work in collaboration with the Board of Ed and the parent community, we can explore the challenge that was brought up last time when we met. Through your actions, you demonstrated that when the going gets tough, the tough get going. And when something is this important to our children and their well-being, it is worth exploring. I viewed the proceedings online. I followed along, and it definitely gave me a glimpse of the intricacies that we have to navigate while we get to a decision. So I don't think that coming and making comments in an open forum will then lead to a decision by this board. But I think we need to focus on what is the next best step. So a couple of things that I heard from Dr. Aderhold is that the science is not being disputed here. I think we've got physicians and biologists who have come on and talked about it. We've cited a bunch of references by parents. So that's really not in dispute. And in terms of the complexities, definitely I agree that WWP is a complex district in terms of managing 2 townships. But I did read an article about the city of Philadelphia navigating this particular plan for 200 plus schools. While they may not have implemented it yet, the fact that they undertook a transportation logistic for 200 plus schools is commendable. Similarly, I believe I read another article about the Hopewell district that created a committee or a task force to actually evaluate, to take in all sorts of stakeholder input, transportation, union, parents, community, and students in order to determine whether they would be moving forward or not. Regardless of the outcome, which I think we would be willing to accept, the due diligence is necessary, and that would be hopefully the next best step. So with that, the parents are with you. We believe you are with us, and you care about the mental and physical well-being of our children. And I think the next best thing really would be for you to survey the community, to really put a formal survey out there to find out whether this is something that is in benefit for the community. We know that there are challenges that parents face, especially this is a commuting town, and so we're not ignoring that. At the same time, creating that formality with the task force would then gives us the, I think, assurance that the due diligence has been taken, and so we're not necessarily living in rhetoric, but living in science. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Good evening, board, and congratulations on your recommendation of the budget. And I'm Deepa Subramanian, residing in Plainsboro. I have a rising high schooler. I think I was here the last time as well to speak about the late start. I'm here again for the same. I echo everything that my friend just spoke about. And I just want to bring the story back, which I think I shared partly last time, about the problem of not having enough time in the morning to have, 1, a peaceful morning, 2, any kind of breakfast at all. It doesn't happen all 5 days in the week. So it's definitely affecting nutrition, and then, of course, they're sleep deprived. I think we've spoken enough about the science behind it. We, as hundreds and thousands of parents, we urge the board to take some action, at least set up a committee, help us in some way, and we're looking for this change by fall 2023. We have petitions going on, we have a survey done, we have enough representation of a marginal percentage of parents. We can all work together and get this done. I really hope we can get some next steps from you today. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Hello, good evening all. My name is Senthil Vasan. I'm from Plainsboro, and my son goes to middle school. And I spoke in the last meeting as well. We know we're talking about this, we're debating about the late start statewide and nationwide, and all the pros and cons, and there are more advantages of the late start than the disadvantages. So slowly I see the trends nationwide, they're moving towards the late start. Some of the other states have already moved to late start, and we are seeing the other districts also in New Jersey is moving to late start. And at one point of time, we also have to be towards that late start for our school district. So I request the board to work a little bit aggressive on, sending a survey to the school, the communities, and start working on it. And we are ready to help with our solution, fixing the complex problems. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Good evening. I'm Aisha, and I don't have anything prepared, so I just
Just
put it on the-
address, please, also.
I'm sorry?
Address as well.
Oh, 52 Zates Farm
Thank
in
you.
West Windsor. I wanted to talk about, like all the other parents are for the high school late start times. So my older daughter, she graduated from high school in 2021. So I have experience for 4 years, and she was always tired and sleep deprived because of the early start times. As now my twins, I have a boy and a girl, in 8th grade, Grover, and now my twins are going to go to high school in the fall. So this issue is even more important to me. I read that teens have a natural tendency to stay up late and sleep in, but early high school start time can really mess with that. It leads to students being tired and unable to focus in class, which can hurt their grades and overall well-being. I really hope you guys can consider pushing back the high school start time to later in the morning. Other school districts have done it. I know Princeton have done it. Was talking to other parents, and whose kids go to Princeton. They changed it about a couple of years ago. The start time used to be 7:40. They moved it to 8:20, 8:20 to 3:20. And they have seen a huge improvements in student attendance and performance. I think it would really benefit our students here as well. I know there might have been some logical challenges to making this change, but I really believe it's worth to give our students the best chance of success. So please, let's work together to make it happen. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Let's just hope the mic doesn't die on me this time. So, good evening and hello, everyone. My name is Avanti Kanitkar from 3 Chandler Court, Plainsboro. Last time we were here as parents of impacted high schoolers with personal statements, appealing to the board's judgment on implementing a later school start for our district. We were asked to start by first kind of reaching out to the community at large and also talking with school officials. I'm happy to report that a lot has taken place since then. We have taken tangible steps and hope that the board will respond today with similar steps to progress this issue. WWP parents, students, and concerned community members have so far voted overwhelmingly in favor of this motion. A change.org petition urging this board and school officials to take immediate action has so far received 5,800 views, more than 750 signatures, 430 shares, and over 45 heartfelt comments. Obviously, not all of the respondents could be here today, but as you can clearly see, a lot of us have gathered here. So thank you very much, parents, for your support. We hope that these voices and signatures will be instructive to the board's actions. In addition to the petition, we have had conversations within the district with former prominent members of the board, school officials, members of the PTA, parents, as well as academic experts and medical practitioners in this field. Outside the district, we have spoken with parents of other high schools who have made the change, as well as nonprofit organizations like StartSchoolLater.net, who are working to ensure that all public schools can set hours compatible with health, safety, equity, and learning. They have shown solidarity with our cause, and one quote here stands out, which I wanted to share with all of you. It's worse for us to say that we understand the science, but don't want to do anything about it. In discussing all the hurdles and the reasons why this can't be done, we forget who we are advocating for in the first place, our children. We have walked you through how other school districts have dealt with the issues, and we understand that while we draw and learn from their experience, we also need to make sure that this will work for our district and its unique characteristics. Which brings us to the conclusion that we need to study the issue with a formal coming together of all the stakeholders, as has been demonstrated again and again. This is an opportunity for the board to share concrete steps that it is taking in this regard. We are here and looking forward to engaging with the board and the superintendent as we strive for the healthy balance between our kids' well-being and academic excellence. Thank you very much, and
Thank you. Any other comments?
Good afternoon, everybody. Actually, good evening. I may be a little bit of an oddity tonight because I'm
Excuse
sorry,
me.
yes.
Yeah.
My name is Gabriela McCann. I'm a West Windsor resident. And I do want to address the issue that everyone seems to be talking about these days, the late start, which I believe started with an initiative that is right now in the legislative state, in New Jersey legislature. And we are waiting for that to see what's happening with it, and that's how this whole thing started. And I hear tonight from everybody how wonderful it will be to have a late start. And I have to say I don't disagree or agree, but there are many, many benefits in having a late start. But we should also be talking about the drawbacks of what that means, right? We have many challenges, scheduling challenges. I'm looking at the budget tonight, and I see the budget for transportation, and it's up there with the healthcare expenses. I also hear from our superintendent that there are already challenges with transportation, with routes, with hiring bus drivers. So I would like to hear from our superintendent this addressed very clearly in a clear manner, but let's not expect the impossible. That's what I wanted to say to everybody. Let's look at it with a logical, in a logical manner, see if it's possible. Obviously, people are concerned. You know, is this something that we can do or not? And I hear people mentioning other districts, such as Princeton or Philadelphia School District. As I said before, we're comparing apples with oranges because you're talking about urban districts versus a district of our size that, in terms of the layout, the transportation, you're looking at miles of bus routes, as opposed to Princeton, which is very compact. So there are many challenges in that regard. So I would like to hear tonight this issue addressed, because obviously parents are concerned, and judging by how many people are here, we want to hear, is it possible? And if it is, how can we make it happen? If it's not possible, why not? Very clearly, in a very clear manner, expressed and outlined. And I also wanted to thank the board for the recommendation of having a full-time kindergarten. I think that's extremely helpful. That shows that you are in tune with working parents in this district, myself included. I think that's my 3 minutes. But thank you so much. I just wanted to say we appreciate your work.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I'm Jai Garg. I live at 10 Silvers Lane, Plainsboro, New Jersey. And I would just like to say that I think it's a great thing that so many people came out here to support the movement to later the start times for middle school and high school students. I'm personally a high school student at North. I'm in 10th grade. And while I absolutely hate getting up every morning, you can ask my mom the number of times I've woken her up or called her home to drive me to school. Now I have to pay her if if I need a ride to school. And especially in the morning, I can get tired, but I don't think that pushing back the start time is a good idea, and it's not the right way to go. This may sound ignorant, I guess, but if you're not getting enough sleep, just go to bed earlier. I know kids in school, like my friends, they're going to bed at 1, 2, even 3 in the morning. What do you expect not to be tired at 8, 7, or 8 in the morning if you're going to bed that late? And there's also so many drawbacks. Someone else mentioned transportation, but also I play sports. And right now, after a practice or a game, I'm already getting home at 6 o'clock. I don't want to have to come home at 7 o'clock or even 7:30 from school, only from playing a sport, right? And I have a lot of homework. I have sometimes other outside of school sports in that evening. That just doesn't work. And people also brought up about how Princeton latered their start time, but they made it later by 40 minutes. Is that really going to make a difference? Honestly, I don't think 40 minutes of extra sleep is a substantial amount to make school later. And if we made school if we made the start time even later than 40 minutes, and so enough so that it would actually have an impact, then kids would just start going to bed later. This week, we have a delayed opening for high school students due to juniors testing, right? And instead of people saying, oh, we have a delayed opening, now I can get more sleep. I've heard my friends say, oh, we have a delayed opening, now we can go to bed later. If the start time gets pushed back, people are only gonna go to bed later, and then they're gonna get the same amount of sleep, and it's gonna have absolutely no difference on their general well-being. And other people also mentioned about how having to get up so early doesn't allow time for breakfast. And I used to not eat breakfast at all, all throughout middle school. But now, instead of trying to get up even earlier and trying to get breakfast, I just bring it with me. Most of my teachers let me eat, so I don't see why that should be a problem for anyone else.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Any other comments? Yes?
Good evening, both. I'm Anand Gopal. I live in 20 Hamilton Lane, Plainsboro. I was not prepared to speak here. That was not in my agenda. But to break the topic, and the topic you covered, full-day kindergarten. Nobody represented that topic yet, but I fully benefit from that. I have a 4.5, and she's registered. She is going to kindergarten. So that's a welcome news, and happy to share with my wife when I get back. She's going to be excited. I'm pretty sure that probably also took some pleading and petitioning, and eventually it got done. I bore the brunt of it on my older one. He's in the 2nd grade. I had to be awake at 12:01 when they opened the kindergarten extension to get the spot. I don't have to fight that battle anymore. So it did take some petitioning, and it eventually happened, and I'm really happy for myself and all the parents who are going to have the kindergarten experience now. I'm hoping the same way. I haven't been invested myself in the high school issue as much because it's probably a few years away. But I fully support all my friends who are in the brunt of it. And I didn't get into all the research, but I do back that. I definitely see one thing where I see the high school kids up early in the morning, in the dark, waiting for the bus, especially in the wintertime. That's one aspect that I see every day because the stop is right outside my house. But I fully support this issue, and I'm hoping this one gets the same attention that took the full-day kindergarten to fruition, and this happens sooner than later. And we put a committee together, get this moving along. Thank you again for your time. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Hello. My name is Mayur. I'm from Plainsboro. So I'm here. My kids are all grown up, so I have pretty much a lot of experience, and I want to give another perspective to the late start thing that I'm hearing all over the community. So one of the things to look at is why are the kids sleeping late, right? They are sleeping late because they are socializing when the parents are sleeping, so they have no restrictions, right? They don't have to worry what mom or dad is going to say, is one aspect of it. The second is maybe they're really working hard. And why are they working hard? I mean, are they studying more than what the previous generation was studying? Or is that something that the education needs to do, like the teachers or whatever the mode of education we have? Is there a lot more emphasis on projects versus giving foundational knowledge in the school and giving them speed? I have experience from my daughter, when she was young, if I gave her an problem for addition, right, single-digit addition, she'd take the whole day. But as soon as she learned the foundation, she would do it in 15 minutes flat. 100 problems, 15 minutes flat, be all perfect. So is the foundational thing not being preached well, which is in turn making the kids work more harder, which in turn is making them sleep late, which in turn makes parents feel, if we have a late start, it might be beneficial, right? And my kids were just getting out of high school now. My oldest one is a junior now. But I keep hearing a lot of the parents, at least in the high school groups that I am in, oh, the teacher is not teaching. The teacher is not teaching. We are having difficulty letting the superintendent know or the science superintendent know that this teacher, we are having difficulty. I keep hearing a lot, and then the parents, just take a shortcut and say, hey, my kids are growing up. I cannot wait for the school district to take action. It will take time. It is a certain process that has to be followed, but I need to take action, right? And they end up doing tuitions. So I also heard recently that we are doing something called integrated classes in the high school, and I just feel that are we diluting the instruction? How are we going to take care of the honest student? You really want kids to motivate, step up. I've seen that in my kids, the pandemic and things after that, they literally lost motivation to go to school. They would want to come up with excuses to say, I'm not going to school. So I feel like the teachers have a pretty big role to play to be motivating. I know the teachers have a very hard job, so I want to appreciate that too. It's a very challenging because I have to teach so many different things. But I think we have to look at the aspect of having teachers and also look at this in a different way too.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay. Last check. Any other comments?
Starry greetings, it's night time. My name is Makaran Bidwai from Princeton, New Jersey. I'll be making more than half a dozen pivots. I want to first call out that my daughter Aditi is turning 14 today. She shares the birthday with Einstein. And I do not believe if Einstein's life was hectic, he would have given us such beautiful physics. So that's one pivot. Second pivot is the KG part. I was here in this meeting when a parent came here and asked for full day KG, and the superintendent says we can't do it because there is no room. So now he's able to do it. I think there needs to be a perspective. We have a room. Where does the room come from? From attrition. So let us balance the perspective. And then regarding the later start, I have sent email to all board members and some parents. I want it to be formally inserted in the record. I have spoken to a few people. I am also requesting that I want to meet each of the board members and the superintendent independently. So I have sent emails, I have never received responses, but other superintendents, other board members outside this district do respond to me. So I do want to get on and do the one-on-one meetings. And it is very important for us to understand that if cancer is diagnosed, we cannot tell the patient, oh, room is full, come back in 1 year to do chemotherapy. It doesn't work that way. This is a serious problem. We are 9 years behind. And I think September 23, this year, we can do it. I want to additionally add that the buses, we cannot disturb. So the attorney is different today, but Mr. Toscano, I believe I got his name right, he mentioned in response to one parent that the parent had a question how the law will change the district's situation, and he did a good job. He said that it will come with a bag of money, but let's not worry about that bag of money because we don't need the money if we don't disturb the buses. And we cannot disturb the buses, and I have sent 2 optimal schedules. The best schedule I would believe is to flip the elementary so that the high schoolers get more time. And most important is, let's get over it. We have to shrink the school time by 50 minutes. There is no other way this is going to work. There is no other way this can work. I've had some parents, oh, I don't want to lose 5 minutes for my kid here and there. Well, you're taking their life, they are stressed, they don't get their nutrition. So parents have to educate themselves. Maybe they're here, they're not here, I don't know. But we're not fighting for 5 minutes, we are fighting for 50 minutes, less time. And that's the only way this will fit. Let us not try to push a square peg in a round hole. It doesn't work. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Okay. Just want to check one more time before I close the public comment portion. Any others? Okay. All right, thank you. So with that, we're going to close the first opportunity for public comments.
Where do I begin after that?
Okay, Dr.
Yeah, a couple of months ago, we had a parent tell us that there would not be a need for middle school and high school because of ChatGPT and AI technologies. So most of you are arguing apparently for no reason, but just know that we've heard from that individual tonight. One of the gentlemen asked about how much of the $4.2 million is being spent on kindergarten, and the answer is 0. In the budget presentation, which will be available online tomorrow, you'll notice there are specific projects with respect to the facilities projects. The vast majority of that's going to, I mentioned sensory playground, a roof at town center, a bathroom at community that needs to be redone. Let me give you the exact. I'm going to show my age. Some of you will relate. The emergency radio tower that I mentioned, sanitary line that I mentioned, and the gym moisture remediation that I mentioned at Wyckoff. That's the $4.2 million. There have been projects in previous years, the expansion at Maurice Hawk Elementary School, the expansion at Town Center Elementary School, the expansion currently underway at Wyckoff Elementary School. In each of those classroom additions, one of the things that we did for future flexibility, because communities' enrollment changes over time, and it's not static, and it's not just because of attrition, but because it's not static with any one cohort in schools, that we built every classroom in those schools was built with a bathroom. That is not true in years gone by. When Millstone River was built, it was built with one classroom with a bathroom. So that upper elementary school cannot be used as a K3 or a K5 school because by code, pre-KK classrooms require bathrooms. So there's code considerations behind the facility utilization of these facilities that is part of that knot that one of the gentlemen spoke about that has to be untangled, but it all interplays with itself. I heard several folks reference that this is a high school schedule issue. This is a district schedule issue. You cannot impact one aspect of the district without impacting all aspects of the district, right? So you can't just change high school time without impacting middle school time and elementary time. The way the buses are run, they're run on tiered systems. So you have an impact. The gentleman that was excited about kindergarten, imagine that kindergarten standing where you see the high schoolers in the morning, because that's the last speaker's recommendation, is that the elementary flips to the high school flips to the elementary, problem solved. It's not solved, right? Because now I got a different issue. I have elementary students in the dark at the end of the roads, sidewalks, majority in our community, not necessarily in others. Big picture, members of the community came forward at the last meeting. You brought forward concerns around start time. The board absolutely heard you, the administration heard you. Between that meeting and this meeting, there have been no committee meetings of the board by schedule. So there has been no opportunity to have further conversation about the points you raised, because we follow a structure in the way the committees work. We will meet next week, and those are closed board administrative working meetings. They're not open public meetings. So there will be an opportunity to talk about what we heard at the last meeting, what we heard at this meeting, and have some dialogue. And that will be moved to a specific committee. And that's if it gets on the agenda, and I'm going to suggest it will be on the agenda, at least of one of the committees. That being said, the board will have to make a determination in concert, in partnership with the administration, about how to move forward. There's several folks that asked for tangible next steps. What could be the next steps? That's a fair question. The board and the administration are going to have a discussion about what the next steps are from the administrative perspective. You know, I've been here a long time, 14 years, and please note, nothing has ever changed because of a change.org petition. I respect that parents are organizing. I respect that you're bringing voice together. I respect that you're doing independent research. So I by no means disrespect that there's an organization and movement around this. But change.org is not a motion. Change.org is not a petition. Change.org is not research, right? There are nuances to every single district that you've referenced. I grew up in Ridgewood. I called the Ridgewood interim superintendent that's been there a hot second, who was brought in because the last two superintendents left because of the destructive policies of that community that's going on there with the 5-member board. And so I know that every elementary school is a walking school. That's not our reality. Every elementary school there is walking. There are no elementary buses, except for one small section of the former Glen Elementary School that no longer exists, that closed in somewhere in the 80s, that gets bused to Hawes Elementary School, right? So that is just not a reality. That's true in Highland Park with some of the elementary middle school buses, and that's true. We do not have many walkers in WWP. In fact, almost every majority of students, with exception of some walkers around Hawk and some walkers around Dutch Neck, everyone's bused. One of the individuals, I think it was a gentleman, raised the point about potential redistricting. Well, over time, that's been bantered about and crushed by community members that had no desire to change sending paths because graduation or personal graduation from a school or affiliation, or one child went to North, therefore all their children had to go to North. There's history in school communities, and the histories have been based on sending paths in WWP, not based on the closest geographical location. Is that a conversation that could come up? If a transportation study is done, and that's an important step that would have to happen in any transportation, any study with respect to sleep time or respect to start time, most likely a transportation study is going to bring up the proximity of the routes to the schools, right, and how you could potentially have savings, but that would mean redistricting every neighborhood and every path, which would then get into capacity and would then get into a demographic study most out. You're talking about at least 4 different types of study, none of which will be completed by September of '23, even if they started in April of this year. One of the speakers talked about having realistic expectations. There is no realistic expectation that has any sleep study impact being done that would drive a schedule change for the entire district for the '23-24 school year. I don't want to lie to you. I don't want to mislead you. I need to be straight up with you. That will never happen for next school year. Never. Now, does that mean it can't be studied? Of course, it could be considered and could be studied if, again, recommended by the administration, charged by the Board of Education. But there are nuanced steps that would have to go in. And I don't believe in blind surveys. If you ask families, do they think that high schoolers should sleep later? I would venture to guess the majority of folks would say yes. But if you ask them, do you believe high schoolers should sleep later at the expense of elementary schools going to school earlier? That's a different question, right? And so we need to be honest and transparent about the type of conversations we really need to have, because it has impacts to families in your work. It has impacts to AM and PM care in the length of day. If our elementaries ended at 2:30, 2:40, 2:50 where the high schools finish, now you have 3 to 4 hours worth of childcare needed every afternoon for some families. And that could be up to 50% of our community at the elementary level needing extended care such as that. You're talking about rebidding transportation. So those routes that renewed at 5.86% CPI, throw them all out. You have to start clean and put new bids out, and you start from scratch. Now you could have 20% renewals, right? So that 5.8%, 5.86% could be a whole different dollar amount when you start bids from scratch. That we've already accepted the renewals with our transportation companies going into next year. That would have to happen. The routes would have to can only be determined and bid out months before the bidding, which is already, it's a cyclical process. Districts that have studied this have been 2 to 3 years. They weren't just bring it up in a board meeting in March or February and then have it enacted for September. So again, I'm not disputing the validity of having the conversation or the need to study. It just, we need to be realistic about anything that comes forward. With respect to one individual asked the question of credit, and I'm not fully remembering the full context of the comment at the last meeting, but I think it also relates to the reduction of 50 minutes as well. I believe it was tied together. There are graduation requirements established by the state of New Jersey, and there are minimum requirements for how many credits you can have in the length of your day. In our high schools, we have a drop rotational schedule. So if you're a parent that has not experienced the high school yet, in the drop rotational schedule, students have 4 classes assigned in the morning, 4 classes assigned in the afternoon, and you see 3 classrooms every day, right? So a class drops every day in the rotation. That works in an 8-period with a consistent bell schedule lunch. That doesn't work in an 8-period schedule with 7 classes and 1 lunch. What it means is all your children that currently have 7 classes in a study hall every day would either have 6 classes in a study hall, only earning 30 credits of credit per year, plus study hall plus lunch, or you would have to drop study hall, which is something that's been time-honored and valued in our community as a result of sleep, extracurricular activities, the length of time. Study halls were built in over 15 years ago. So everything has an impact on everything else. It's not as simple as saying we're going to address the schedule without understanding that that schedule impacts the other grade levels, and that schedule impacts transportation costs, and that schedule impacts parent work schedules and extended day, sports, as the one student that came up and spoke about. And if you really then don't move, let's say you leave the elementary static and move the high school extraordinarily late, and you move it so it's 50 minutes to an hour after elementary start and give them a 10-something start, let them finish at 6, 900 athletes at each school are going to come in at 7 o'clock and have practice in the morning, and they're not going to have transportation because the buses are going to be later, right? So you're not going to have a double bus run. So it has different impacts if you do something like that. So can we think outside the box? Sure. Do we have to think within inside code? Absolutely. Do we have to think within the parameters established with the greater context of the entirety of the district? Yes. If I surveyed elementary parents right now and said in a survey, how many believe that elementary school should start at 7:35 or 7:40 when the high school starts? And I did that survey to all K-5 parents right now, and that's the totality of should high school start late. No parent would say that's a good idea. Right, so what this survey is great, parents want to talk about this, okay, but let's have, but elementary, we have to be honest about what the impacts are. In this scenario that's being presented as an option, elementary goes early. And I can't imagine parents wanting their little ones out at the end of the road at 6:45 or 6:50. So it's the same problem. It's a different problem. It's also a childcare end-of-day problem for families, especially with the age of the children, and the fact that they're middle school and high schools that a lot of families rely on for childcare are going to be in school still. Right? So, look, it's nuanced, it's challenging, and it's not as simple as saying have it for September. We did some research. We've seen a couple studies. Harvard said this, APA said this, CDC said this, and the idea as presented, and I don't think it was meant this way, but as presented that if you're aware of the issue and you do nothing, then you don't care, is unfair to all the individuals on the Board of Education and administration and those of us that have looked at this issue over time. It's complex enough that there's no easy solution for the totality of the entirety of the district. So it doesn't mean that there may not be solutions that we can find. But trying to find it for 33,000 high school students that doesn't impact others in the confines of the budget is challenging. It's challenging. And the districts that you see that have made some minor changes, and minor, 15, 20 minutes in one location, 40 minutes in another, are often smaller communities, walking proximities, do not have the depth and size of buses that we do. If I'm the superintendent of Nutley, I could think of this work differently because I have no buses in my entire school district, right? That's why when you look at financial reports and districts look at comparisons in the Taxpayer's Guide to Educational Spending, they don't count transportation in the comparison number because the spending patterns are different district to district based on size of district. If you take a district like Freehold Regional, which has 6 high schools, 9, 12 district, they have 3 high schools that go early and 3 high schools that go late. There's no differential in their test scores. There's no differential in their mental health concerns and numbers. But there's the 400 miles of community that they transport to, they would have to double their transportation costs if they went out and did one-tier busing. So again, it's clearly a topic that will continue. It's a topic that there's community interest on, and I appreciate that. And I make the comments I make tonight not to say it's not, I'm not trying to say it's no, I'm just trying to say it's complex. And it's a little more complex than it's being presented this evening. So I would ask that as the board determines the process to go in, please know they're hearing you, the administration's hearing you, and that we need to now reflect upon the type of process we would want to put in place and what that process would look like over what period of time to get appropriate feedback and where to start. Hopewell started with a committee and with a transportation study around that committee. And once transportation came in, the committee ended because the costs were so exorbitant, there was no other steps, right? So different communities have handled it differently. I've begun looking into what some of the other processes other communities have done. I'm going to see one of the superintendents tomorrow in a district that's implemented and talking to him about this tomorrow. I have, I've talked to bill sponsors last week when I testified on mental health in front of the Senate Ed Committee, and I spoke to representatives from Senator Gopal's office about this work as well. So, I have a sense of where the bill is. To the individual that raised the bill, the bill is just sitting. It's not moving forward at this point. We'll see where that goes. I do not believe in any final version, and this is my now 10 years working on legislative committees and serving as president of one of the largest state advocacy groups and being in the leadership of the Superintendent's Association. I see no full mandate coming that's going to mandate all districts at first because the pilot never happened. So if anything comes from that bill, I would imagine the pilot will be, or an expanded pilot will happen. To try to mandate all districts at once would have a devastating financial impact across the state. One which you already are hearing over 100 districts are getting gutted with state aid. It's called S2 districts, if you're following in the news about state aid cuts. We are very fortunate because we have been underfunded that we saw an increase, but other districts are losing millions. So to ask them to go to change start times when they're losing money is going to be near impossible. And that's just across the state. That's why I don't think a state mandate's possible. And that would require a change in the funding formula, in my estimation. And I don't think the legislature has the, it's not there yet. I don't think the call to try to change the funding formula, which has been defended at the New Jersey Supreme Court level, is going to be on the radar of the legislature anytime soon, let alone in an election cycle, which we're in the fall. So, beyond saying that, I actually am appreciative. I want you to know I'm appreciative of the amount of parent input and the amount of parent interest in this topic. It's actually gratifying to see so many of you out 2 meetings in a row. A lot of times folks come out from one meeting and don't show up again. So to see parents in the audience, seeing parents that are interested, seeing parents that are dedicated and want them to be involved, that you have a lot of different reasons for interest, but at the end of it, it's all about, better health for your children. I have great respect for that. And any process that comes forward will inevitably require some form of student participation and some form of parent participation. So in that, I do look forward to continuing the conversation, and it can be done in different forums, but with PTAs and others. But I do appreciate your coming out this evening. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Adderhold. Okay, so we did not, as Dr. Adderhold mentioned, have any committee meetings since the last meeting, so we don't have any reports to share tonight. So I will move to the voting portion of our meeting. So can I get a motion for administration items 1 through 5 with a couple of corrections? For item 1, the date on there should say February 28th, 2023. There was a typo there. And then for item 3, that should say February 2023 instead of December 2022. So can I get a motion for items 1 through 5 with those corrections? Dana and Robin? Any questions or comments? Bonnie?
Okay. Ms. Bonsall?
Yes.
Ms. Ho?
Yes.
Ms. Krug?
Yes.
Ms. Maliga?
Yes.
Ms. Shetty?
Yes.
Ms. Zovich?
Yes.
Ms. McEwen?
Yes.
And Ms. Juliana?
Yes. All right, we're moving to curriculum items. Can I get a motion for curriculum items 1 and 2, plus the blue addendum, Loy and Pooja? Any questions or comments? Okay, Bonnie?
Okay, and Ms. Bonsall?
Yes.
Ms. Ho?
Yes.
Ms. Krug?
Yes.
Ms. Maliga?
Yes.
Ms. Shetty?
Yes.
Ms. Zovich?
Yes.
Ms. McEwen?
Yes.
And Ms. Juliana?
Yes. Right, now moving to finance items 1 through 9. Can I get a motion for those items? Louisa and Graylin? Any questions or comments? Okay. Bonnie?
Okay, Ms. Maliga?
Yes.
Ms. Shetty?
Yes.
Ms. Zovich?
Yes.
Ms. Bonsall?
Yes.
Ms. Ho?
Yes.
Ms. Krug?
Yes.
Ms. McEwen?
Yes.
And Ms. Juliana?
Yes. Now moving to personnel items. Can I get a motion for personnel items 1 and 2 plus the green addendum? Shweta and Dana? Any questions or comments? Bonnie?
Okay, Ms. Bonsall?
Yes.
Ms. Ho?
Yes.
Ms. Krug?
Yes.
Ms. Maliga?
Yes.
Ms. Shetty?
Yes.
Ms. Zovich?
Yes.
Ms. McEwen?
Yes.
And Ms. Juliana?
Yes. Okay, we just voted on a number of retirements on our personnel agenda, so I just wanted to acknowledge those retirements. We have Eugene Buck, a science teacher at Grover Middle School, retiring after 35 years in the district. Don Gillen, a media specialist at Millstone River, retiring after 29 and a half years in the district. Louise Hammerly, a music teacher at Grover Middle School, retiring after 33 years in the district. Barbara Lally, a health and PE teacher at Millstone River, retiring after 21 years in the district. Laurel Levy, a learning disabilities teacher consultant at Town Center and High School South, retiring after 22 years in the district. Eileen Marland, a reading recovery teacher at Maurice Hawk, retiring after 31 and a half years in the district. Lisa Shannon, a special education teacher at High School South, retiring after 22 years in the district. And Linda Perilli, who is a 12-month secretary from High School North, retiring after 26 years in the district. So that's a lot of years and a lot of names. So I just want to thank, for those who are retiring, thank you so much. Yes, absolutely. Thank you for all your years of service and dedication to this district. We really appreciate it, and we wish all of you well in your retirement, so thank you. All right, so we're now moving to the approval of the minutes. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from February and March? Louisa and Loy. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions?
I'm going to abstain from March 2nd meeting, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any others? Okay. Any board liaison reports? Any new business? Yes.
This isn't technically a liaison report, but I saw Something Rotten and Addams Family, and they were amazing. So props to the theater groups at the schools.
Yeah. Thanks, Lisa. Okay. Any new business? All right, so that takes us to the second opportunity for public comments. The board invites comments from members of our community who are present. Each participant is asked to give his or her name and address prior to making a statement, which will be limited to 3 minutes in accordance with Board Policy 0167. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. This public comment period shall be limited to 15 minutes. Are there any public comments?
Hello, can you hear me? All right. Thanks. Gaurav Handa, 3 Chandler Court, Plainsboro. I think there was a lot said in the first comment period, but there was one word that was used quite a bit, the word complex. I think the issue is not complex, the issue is complicated. The human body is complex, but a Boeing 747 is complicated. You can actually figure out how things work. I don't think we are a school district that believes in academic excellence at any cost. Neither are we a school district that ignores students' overall health and well-being, nor are we a school district that turns a blind eye to the needs of its community members, both present and future. So what kind of a school district are we? For my part, I went back in time and looked at a lot of sources, including our high school newsletters, the nightly news and the Pirate Eye, where a lot of students talk about their opinions and features, as well as the broader media. And this is what I saw. The board and Dr. Adderhold have been a champion of change. I came across instances where special planning committees were set up in coordination with neighboring districts, open houses to solicit inputs from parents and community members, and surveys run along with students to gauge the issues affecting our community. But we've heard this before. Not just heard, but seen it demonstrated in the way this board and Dr. Adderhold have run the district by anticipating, meeting, and responding to our needs. And which makes me hopeful. In fact, your comments make me hopeful that we are not going to hesitate to study this issue of later school start for our district. We've been in the school district since our child was in elementary, and have never come across a single survey soliciting our input on this particular issue. And we are not alone. We are fighting for this cause for not just our kid, but for the silent majority of parents and kids who are currently impacted by the status quo of early school start and the district's inability to act on this front. Elementary and middle school parents would do well to draw from our experience. A lot of us are not just experiencing and navigating this education system for the first time, but are also first-time parents. We are not just a district of exceptional kids. We are a district of exceptional parents as well. And with the science leading us, we are not afraid to ask the question, is there a better way? There were a lot of points raised both in favor and against this motion in the past board meeting. For our part, we tried to address a lot of them through our individual testimonials today. Contrary to what was implied, the choices available for academic excellence are welcome. We are not the experts. I think there were a lot of us who tried to present solutions. We are not the experts. We already said that. The examples we draw from other school districts are to find common ground, but we do understand our district has its own unique characteristics. But that has not stopped us from acting on change, as we've demonstrated in the past. And I hope that the board and Dr. Adderhold can hopefully see the forest for the trees and act on the issue of later school start, which is well within their span of control. Sometimes the problem goes away, but the solution still remains. Is the way transportation set up one of these things and schedule set up one of these things? Is it decades-old baggage that we continue to carry on while neglecting what science instructs us to do? We pay into the system and we want the system to work for us. In information technology, there's a concept of features and bugs. Transportation needs to be a feature of the school district supporting the needs of this community and not a bug that we have to adapt our lives to at the cost of our children's health and well-being, which neglects proven and acknowledged science behind this cause.
Thank you.
And the petition has reflected the needs of the community in that we want a later school start, and we're not going to be a silent, suffering majority anymore.
Great. Thank you.
When the facts change, I change my mind, and I urge the board to do the same.
Great. Thank you very much. Apologies all for the, yes.
The forest of the trees, ironically, a tree came down on a power line according to West Windsor Police. So appreciate the gentleman staying through that with the distractions and the flashing lights. So well done. I believe we may be on generator, which is why you're seeing the intermittent power and the light surging. So apologies for that. Ty, I don't know if you've lost the feed. You're okay? All right. So we're still on the clock. So.
Okay, great. Thank you, and apologies again for that interruption, but thank you for getting through that. Any other comments? Okay.
Good evening. This is Deepa Subramaniam from Plainsboro again, and thank you so much, board. It gives us hope. You've given us hope this evening. We fully understand that we have a lot more to do, and you're going to have this kind of audience for many more meetings because we're here to help you and to work this out in the next 10 months probably. Thank you so much for hearing us out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Naresh Nagel again from West Windsor. Thank you so much. It's enlightening to see the process of public education, and really, you are all dedicated servants to making our district and our community the excellent center of education that it is. I would just say that I would hope that, we're not going to wave a magic wand, and it's not going to happen in a month or whatnot, but I really hope that there's enough consensus here that Dr. Adderhold starts, or whoever has the ability to do this, starts a committee to investigate this. I think you're right. If put to a poll, no one's going to choose six-year-olds out at 6:45 in the morning waiting for a bus, if that means 15-year-olds get to go to school later. But I think I wouldn't be so quick about redistricting. I didn't choose my house saying, oh, I really want to go to North, and I didn't know my daughter was going to pass one high school to get to another. I chose the house for the house. I think the vast majority of people do that. I think that might be a historical fallacy that people choose purely for the district and because their mom went to North or whatever. I think all these things in a committee and in fact-finding missions can be revisited. I don't know enough if redistricting would be enough to solve the solution, but I think that if we go through this process and say, oh, it's the buses, it's the transportation, there's glaring inefficiencies in our bus system and the way we get kids to school. And if that needs fixing and we can get a later start, I think that would be great.
Thank you. Any other comments? Mm-hmm.
Hello again. My name is Avanti Ganitkar, and I'm from 3 Chandler Court, Plainsboro. Thank you very much, Dr. Adderhold, for addressing all of us for appreciating our advocacy and appreciating our effort. We truly believe that we are in a good school district that really excels, and we listen to the community members and try their best to achieve the results that will help our children. I wanted to bring up the point of change.org. I understand that change.org is a third-party petition site. The idea behind change.org was not to really give it a lot of merit, but it was an idea to bring forth votes and voices of parents who were either not able to attend a meeting or were not able to get on WhatsApp groups, or were not, it was just a way for them to voice themselves and to show their support. So I wanted to just clarify that we are not using change.org as like a all and mighty, but it was more of a multi-pronged approach that we were looking at. Also, I know you mentioned that the school district has done a transportation study in the past, a couple of years ago, was it? Did you say that we've done a transportation study a couple of years ago, or?
No, we've done a demographic study, but we've not done a transportation.
Okay, all right. So maybe I heard incorrect, so I apologize. And also, I know that from past conversations with parents that they have been wanting the full-day kindergarten quite a lot, and then I appreciate that you guys have managed to do that. But I wanted to understand how kind of was the process that you kind of went through to achieve that, and how long did it take the school district to bring that into implementation? That's it. Thank you very much, everybody, and have a good night. Drive safe, I guess, most of all.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Mayu from Plainsboro. So it's good to hear all the feedback that you gave, Superintendent. So I hear that, yes, you are hearing, you're going to take a look at the board and take some action. It'll just take some time. We need to have patience. So while you're doing that, I would like, I've seen some surveys happening on WhatsApp and all. So a lot of the time, we miss a few people. So I would expect that this survey, you find ways to reach out to all the stakeholders, the teachers, the students, the parents, and also you may want to even break it up and say, okay, you want to do it in elementary school or middle school, how favorable you are in each of this thing, I know the way you explained, it's kind of complex, complicated, however you want to put it, but I think that would be a good starting point. And pretty much, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Any other comments? We have time for one more.
Starry greetings, Makran Bidwai, Princeton, New Jersey. I'm lost, but let me recollect. So, some time back, I had made a request, and I'm not trying to be preposterous or hyperbolic, that the superintendent should go on sabbatical. And I don't know whether you agree with it or not, but if you put me as a superintendent for 3 months, I can accomplish this. But let's move on. Let's not get there, right? Let's go to the second point. The superintendent mentioned at the morning problem where the kids are on the bus stop in darkness. I don't know what time superintendent wakes up. I wake up at 5, and I sent a message on WhatsApp last morning that it's dark and parents were collecting there with umbrellas. So, sir, it's happening now. So what roadblocks are we seeing in the future and not seeing for today? And I encourage you to go around town, like lots of good leaders do that. Kings, queens, they used to do that in the old times, fairy tales, but I'm sure we all can do that too. I want the board members to come out and check how parents are doing. So yes, I think the thing I mentioned works well, and I have spoken to a few superintendents, and the first thing I want to say is I'm asking for the elementary to start at 8 a.m. That will not result into this darkness situation ever, right? I'm not asking them to come at 7:35. So I have some problem, madam. If I stand here and start correcting the superintendent, it will be all night. So let's get further. So let's start elementary at 8 o'clock. Let's end them at 2:30, suppose. And then he mentioned 4 hours of daycare. No, it's not 4 hours. It's only 1 hour, right? Because they already get 3 hours of daycare if they end at 3:30. We are only preponing them by 1 hour. So I'm sorry, but I'm not going to take this time here. I'm going to do my best to meet you independently. I'm going to make a checklist. I'm going to make a spreadsheet. And every problem the superintendent is bringing, I'm going to solve it. And I don't want to spill the beans, but I also know one thing is going on here. There is a cohort who is opposed to this, and it appears our superintendent is one of them. I will continue this conversation one-on-one. Please respect and please allow yourself some time to see me. We can work this. Thank you. This September.
Thank you.
The quickest way for this not to be enacted is to follow him. The quickest way. I promise I didn't start the hashtag this weekend, but I had great joy in seeing it.
Okay. So let me just say this. We are going to adjourn, but before I do, again, like I said last time. Actually, I'm sorry. If you already did a comment, you can't do two comments in the same. Oh, you did not the second? Okay, we need a extended.
There's no, I don't know the exact.
Okay. All right. One more comment. Go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening again. My name is Milind Manurkar, 15 Slayback Drive, Westminster Township. I just wanted to make a statement here. Basically, for every struggle, there are people. There are two types of people, right? One would be aggressive, other could be passive. So I guess we have to balance that out and look at a broader picture in a big way. Options are like, sometimes some aggressive words can be deleted. That's how I put it. And we can work together, make this possible. So that's all I just wanted to say here, that, it's nothing personal, I think. So it's all, we are working towards a cause, and then there's always, two sides of people that you would encounter. So let's move forward and let's not take
It's not personal. Oprah his emails. And you can see what he said about it.
I didn't read those emails, so I do not know.
Post them on WhatsApp. They're just not the ones about impotence.
Sorry?
Okay, but thank you. No, I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
So I did want to just close by saying, I know before we adjourn, that as I said last time, I do appreciate all of you coming out and advocating for your children and being here and talking to us. We said this the last time, I will say it again. The health benefits that you all have raised, I don't think anyone is arguing any of that. I think, as I mentioned before, and for those who didn't hear these comments last time, you see that we are all parents on this, the board members, superintendent, we're all parents, we're all moms for the board members here. Many of us have high schoolers, so we understand a lot of the things that you've raised, the health issues you've raised. So I just wanted to thank you again for coming out, for the respectful comments that were made tonight. Thank you very much. We do appreciate that. And with that, can I get a motion to adjourn? Lisa and Robin, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you all very much.